Hello, everybody, and welcome to Aftersight. I am your host, Penn Street. And today I definitely want to give a couple of shout outs. AINC has a couple of brand new podcasts. One is called Blind Sight, and it's with Bill Lundgren. And he really dives into everything around mental health and a ton of really amazing topics that is very helpful for all of us, regardless if you are blind and visually impaired or not. The other one is Topic of the Month, which is with our very own executive director, Kim Wardlow. And each month we dive into a specific topic. And this month is advocacy. So definitely check it out on our website at aincolorado.org. And there's also a ton of really amazing resources and services around advocacy, as well as links to the podcast. So today, I'm super excited. My guest is Lauren Baer, and Lauren is our new Audio Information Network of Colorado. She's our new volunteer coordinator. And so Lauren, she really, really does have a beautiful soul, and we're so lucky to have her. And she's just so supportive on our team already. And then, of course, with our volunteers. So stay tuned. And when we come back, Lauren is actually going to share her journey and how she ended up here at AINC.
You're listening to Aftersight with Penn Street, an AINC original podcast. If you enjoy what you hear, please visit aincolorado.org for more shows, news, and articles read by our amazing staff and volunteers. If you have a question for Penn or would like to recommend a guest for future shows, please visit aincolorado.org/podcast-guest. And now, here's your host, Penn Street.
Lauren, welcome to Aftersight.
Thank you, Penn. It's lovely to see you.
You too. So
the little pun there. It's always kind of funny when you're saying "see."
I know people do that. They're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that." But I say it. I say, "Oh, I saw this amazing movie last night," or I read a great book. So yeah. So it's just part of our vocabulary.
It's easy to wonder if it's a faux pas or just a normal part of speech.
I know. I think it's a normal part of speech. That's what I like to think anyway. Well, Lauren, so one of the things that I like to do on the podcast is I like to just have some rapid fire questions so the audience gets to know a little bit more about you before we dive in. Is that okay?
All right, let's try it.
I keep waiting for somebody to say, no, I don't want to do that.
No, don't ask me any questions. That's not what I came here for.
It's a staring contest.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So, Lauren, do you like to cook, or would you rather be cooked for?
Oh, I would absolutely rather be cooked for. I'm a good cook. I just don't want to do it.
Oh, I actually enjoy cooking more than I do. I mean, I'm a good cook and I like to eat what I cook, but I love the.
I keep trying to find some mental game I can play with myself to make myself enjoy cooking.
Well, you got to be one or the other, right?
Yeah.
What about a speeding ticket or a parking ticket?
I'm more likely to get a parking ticket.
Okay.
Used to be more inclined to get a speeding ticket.
Is that because you're getting older or you're getting wiser?
I think I'm getting more patient.
Oh, there you go. That's good. Yeah.
And older. That's definitely happening.
Would you rather have a silly hat or silly socks?
Oh, silly hat.
Silly hat.
Let my freak flag fly.
I like that. Air guitar or air drums?
Air drums.
Air drums.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think air drums is more fun because you really got to wave your arms and get into it. Air guitar is not as exciting. Okay.
Easier to fake it.
Exactly. And I do have to share with my audience, I gave Lauren a heads up on this so she could think about it. If you had a theme song, what would it be?
Okay, yeah, I did think about this. So my kind of adventurous side, I'm going to say it's How Far I'll Go from Moana, the theme song from the movie Moana.
Oh.
And my more reflective side is a song called Fetch Your Life by Prince Kabi. He's a South African artist.
Oh, wow.
And I really like that, but it talks about the agony you experience when you're not following your dreams.
Oh, wow.
And so you should go and fetch your life.
I will, and I will definitely look that up. And for the audience, we will make sure that we put those songs in the podcast notes so that you also can check them out. So, wow, I love that. Well, this goes right into the next question, Lauren. I know that you love to travel and you've been all over the world. And how in the world did you end up at AINC?
It was the past 6 months of my life have been kind of a whirlwind of, I felt like I got sucked into some kind of a wormhole and spit out into a different life, and not in a bad way at all, but it's still been a lot of change. And from the outside, it probably doesn't look like it's as fast as it felt like from the inside. But over the past year, I'm originally from Colorado and I've been living in Minnesota. My husband's from there. And there were several situations. My mom had some health situations, so I came out. And over the past year, I came out a bunch. And we started to talk about maybe it being time to think about coming back home. And my husband loves it here, too. So that was an easy sell. And then an opportunity came up in his work. And that's when the whole tornado of chaos ensued, because his company tends to be very slow. But they weren't this time. And within 3 weeks, he had a new job in Colorado.
Wow.
And we had to start thinking about selling a house we'd been in for over 2 decades, and we weren't at all prepared to sell and everything. But then once all of that chaos slowed down enough, and I decided to go online and start looking at opportunities, and I saw this one. This is the only thing that I applied for before coming out here.
Wow.
And so it's pretty fabulous that I was lucky enough to land this opportunity. But with some of the volunteer work I've done, I saw some overlap that I really liked. And just my experience working with volunteers from the projects I've worked with. So Penn would know this from our meetings, but I worked in a volunteer program called Between the Lines in Minnesota. And what we do is we bring in these large totes of books for women and caregivers to read to the children that they took care of before they were incarcerated. And we have them read the book they select. If it's a longer book, they can only read about 10 minutes worth, but still it's a recording that we can then burn onto a CD, always looking to change the technology. But it was CDs when I was there, and, buy a new copy of the book, wrap that all up as a gift and send it off to the kids. And it had a dual purpose of giving the caregivers and the children an additional way to connect during the separation, but it also encourages literacy with the kids. And so that was, kind of an extra bonus, feed two birds with one seed kind of a thing. And seeing the work that you all do with audio, I just felt like it was similarly meaningful and similarly valuable. So I was very excited to see this opportunity pop up.
Well, and you fit right in. It feels like you've always been here. So it is beautiful. And if people want to go back and listen, I think it might have been a week or two ago that Kristen was on Aftersight, and she was a young woman that was incarcerated for, a decade. And she also talked about, how she found Braille to connect with the outside and give her something. I think she said something beautiful in a world that was not beautiful in prison. And so that project, is that a project they do at a lot of the prisons, or is this a special project that's at this particular prison?
I have heard of it existing in other places, and I'm not quite sure where else it exists. I did it through the Junior League, and so that was one of the projects that we had. And I had joined it. I think it was around for about 5 years when I came along, and then I worked with it for, I guess, about 7 years before I moved here. Yeah, so it's a great program, and I have heard of it existing. It might exist under other names, but it's not like a nationwide thing that I was just doing that chapter of or something.
It should be, because
right,
the trauma that children go through when they're their parents
Yeah.
are incarcerated is horrendous. And
Yeah.
to have that, just like here at AINC, one of the comments we get over and over again, one of the reasons that we're so successful is that all of our program is the human voice and compared to, a synthesized voice. And so I can imagine a child being at home and getting that gift in the mail of their mom's voice reading to them is, it gives me chills. Like it's so incredible.
Yeah. One of my favorite bits of feedback that we got was hearing about a child, and you know how children can be kind of obstinate and not wanting to show their vulnerability at times, especially when they're extremely vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so this child who had been telling their caregiver that they didn't care about the audio, they don't listen to it. But the person that was taking care of them while their caregiver was incarcerated said that the child listened to it every night.
Oh, yeah.
Powerful.
We all put up those walls even if they're not needed, but we put up walls to protect us, even if it's just the walls we think are protecting us, even though they're really not. But that is so incredibly beautiful. Well, Lauren, you've traveled quite a bit. Could you share one of your favorite places that you went to and why you ended up there?
Why I ended up there is always because I haven't been there yet, or I loved it and I want to return.
Oh, okay.
Often the way I choose the next place I'm going is where I find a really good deal too.
Oh, okay.
But I love Thailand, got deep connections to Thailand. I've studied there a couple of times. And the last time I was there, I had the luxury of staying with a Thai family with the 3 generations and everything. And so it was super cool to see that from the inside, because typically in Thailand, you don't get to see the inner workings in someone's home. You'll usually end up meeting Thai friends at a restaurant or something, but not usually at their home.
Right.
And so having that inside access was amazing. And my family was so generous and kind to me. So hopefully they'll come see me now that I have a guest room here in Colorado.
That would be
so
awesome.
I'll start bugging them soon.
Yeah,
that would be really fun.
You'll have to bring them into the office.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
That would be
And the grandma,
wonderful.
Only a couple of the family members spoke English, and my Thai is not good. But the grandma, she would sit with me and she would try and teach me some Thai words, especially some regional ones, because I was in northern Thailand. And so there's some differences. Like it's typical to say, like for hello, it's Sawasdee Ka. And in northern Thailand, there's like a slight alteration where it's Sawasdee Jiao.
Oh,
and so if I say that to a Thai person, they know immediately where I was. And so she was great. I also called her the umbrella police, because I was there during the monsoon season and she would try to keep me from leaving without my umbrella. And, of course, when I forgot my umbrella, it rained.
Of course. That never fails, right?
Yeah. So she was looking out for me. Yeah, she was pretty fabulous.
Wow. Well, many of our audiences know that they knew Kat Bradbury, who was our coworker who passed away unexpectedly just a few months ago. And I have not had a chance to talk to you about this, but how, some of these volunteers worked with her for decades. Right. How are the volunteers embracing you, or are they not embracing you? I can't imagine that, but how is that going?
I haven't run into any friction at all. The volunteers have all been really welcoming and lovely. And when word got out that I was hired, then I started receiving some really welcoming, beautiful emails. And often they acknowledged Kat in those emails. And so I really liked that she wasn't being erased from the story, So they remember her and they love her, and they, recognize that we're in a new place now, and they're ready to work with me. So they've been really easy to work with. We have great volunteers.
Yes, we do. I have to say, when I read your resume and I went on to your LinkedIn and stuff, I felt like I even told our executive director, Kim, this is that I see a little cat there, and that, and I think that, you can never, I've been in situations where I went into a new job and my predecessor, was kind of, I don't think I've ever followed somebody who had passed away, so especially somebody who was so beloved. Yeah. But it is hard stepping into new shoes. And so I know that when you came on, all of us were, this is Lauren is not replacing Kat. This is a new role. This
Yeah.
is a new person. And but all of us just from the beginning really felt like you were the one. And here you are.
Oh, that's so lovely to hear. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
all been so welcoming. And I feel like everyone has made kind of the runway to getting up to speed as easy as it can be, really,
Yeah.
really helpful.
Absolutely. And how about the AINC team? We're not a huge group, but we're all very individuals.
Yeah.
How have you felt like you're fitting in with us?
You all have a great family here. Thank you for bringing me in.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like y'all enough that the Winnie the Pooh event that I brought my mom and my sister to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was showing y'all off. These are my cool coworkers.
That was sweet. That was sweet meeting your mom and your husband and so what brought you to this kind of work? The work that you did at the prison and then the work you're doing now. It takes a certain kind of person, not that it's not a good fit for everybody. Is there something in your life that drew you to this kind of work, or did you just sort of landed it and embraced it? How did that all come about?
I think a lot of the things that I've done that other people shy away from are things that I feel like I can genuinely make a difference, that I could genuinely be helpful to other people. And I feel that I've got a pretty strong drive that I need to do that. Like, for example, I worked in hospice for a little while, and then my last place was assisted living. And a lot of the people there, we're not talking about people who are at the independent living stage of their life.
Right.
And so it was common to lose our residents. And, there's a lot of grief around that.
Yeah.
And so I think some people are wired that they can kind of process that grief and continue on and not let it crush them.
Yeah.
And I must be wired that way. So I can experience all the grief and all the sadness, but I can also come back and do it again.
Yeah. And I think, we've talked a little bit about death and, I had an experience about a few weeks ago that we talked about, where I witnessed somebody passing away right in front of me. And so we talked about death a little bit. And can you share some of what you shared with me about that moving on or whatever you want to call it? It's not an end, and it's, that it should actually be celebrated.
I think if you have any kind of spiritual leaning that there's something beyond this, I think we can get so fixated on thinking of death as being terrible or an end. But most people do have some kind of spiritual foundation where they believe in something else. And so I think they lose sight of that belief when you're experiencing the loss, the grief. And as somebody who believes that there genuinely is something after this, I don't have clarity on what that is.
Yeah.
But I believe it's something good. And so for me, I think it's about recognizing that everything is temporary. I have Buddhist leanings, and so recognizing that change is a part of life. But also, I wish I had it in front of me so I could read it, but there's a beautiful hospice poem that was written by someone about dragonflies. And it talks about these dragonflies. They're in their, oh gosh, I'm not even going to think of the right embryonic stage. Let's say they're in the living in water stage. And you have a couple of dragonflies who are talking to each other about these other dragonflies who left, and they went up to the surface and they never came back, and they must have died, and it's terrible, and we're grieving them, and they never came back to tell us that they were okay. So it must be horrible. And so one of the dragonflies says, okay, well, I promise when I go up to the water, I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you. And so time comes, goes back up, becomes a full-fledged dragonfly, but he can't go back into the water again.
Right.
And so he has this awareness that he can't fulfill that promise he made, but he's onto a whole new life where he can fly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so that's a lot of how I see death.
That's absolutely beautiful. And I love dragonflies. And I love butterflies. I love that transformation. Because we've talked about that on the podcast about how, it's called Aftersight because there is life after sight. And I think that there is sort of
right.
a feeling of loss and grief and even death to people who get diagnosed or are in an accident where they do lose their vision. And that's a beautiful way of thinking about it. And I definitely try that. There are definite days that I don't want to get out.
Some days it's easier than others.
Absolutely. Lauren, when you have a dark day, what motivates you to fly, to not stay under the water?
I think actually I have a little bit of a different approach than trying to talk myself out of being in a funk when I'm in a funk. Because I think that our energy kind of needs to go through cycles. And, having studied in Thailand, and I've also studied traditional Chinese medicine and everything, and recognizing, just like with yin and yang, you've got day and you've got night, and you're going to have days that are beautiful and you're going to have days that are hard.
Yeah.
And I think giving myself permission to have bad days is my key. That I don't have to have a good day every day, and that I can have days that I'm just feeling sorry for myself, and that I know my thoughts are completely selfish and irrational, and I don't allow myself to stay in that place, but I can sit there for a little while until I've had enough time. A lot of that is just going inward, and we usually do that when we need to do some kind of healing. And it can be some kind of healing that only needs a 15-minute nap, or it can be healing that requires more time. But I think in a lot of Western culture, there's such a focus on always being smiling and getting over grief quickly. We don't allow people room to grieve. And so even though I have this belief that there's something beautiful afterwards, that doesn't change the fact that it really sucks for the survivors. And so you are going to miss that person. You are going to have this hole in your life. Your whole world has to reshuffle, because like within a family unit, whatever job that person held, that's now a big vacancy, and everything has to reshuffle to figure out, who the new matriarch is going to be and how that's going to play out, and how are the family traditions going to be maintained, or which ones are going to fall to the wayside. And so that's a lot. And so giving ourselves permission to have hard days, I think, is important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes when, like you said, like Western culture, it's just like, be happy, be on, be the star. And so when you're
only high vibes.
Yeah, exactly. But when you don't feel like that and you don't allow yourself, like you said, sometimes it's 15 minutes, sometimes it's a day. Even if you look at our culture, you get 3 days of agreement, like, you know what I mean? Of being able to take off work.
Which is insane. And that's only for the people who are closest to you legally.
That's true. That doesn't include, best friends or even a pet, sometimes, I know with me, a lot of people know Beethoven, it may take more than 3 days. I agree. I think what have you experienced in some of the other cultures that you've experienced, how they deal with it?
One thing that was interesting to me, for example, we have a lot of Tibetan friends and Tibetan neighbors, and or at least in Minnesota, we had Tibetan neighbors. And there is a focus on not being overly emotional when someone is passing, because it's a way of kind of attaching to them and not letting them move on, or at least making them feel really badly about moving on. And that you're not going to be okay, because that could be a real worry for someone. Are the people I'm leaving behind going to be okay? And so complicating their exit is not considered a great way to go. It's frowned upon, and I think that that's an important thing. Like when my dad passed, he was very goofy. He makes me look like I'm a normal person, and he was extraordinary. And he was full of bad choices in a way that we never thought he'd live long enough to die of natural causes. But one of his eccentricities, because he grew up during the Depression, was he loved day-old pastries. So he would always go and find the day-old pastry section, and he would bring home these day-old pastries. And someone had brought some pastries to us that were fresh. And so we, we're sitting there keeping vigil with my dad while he's dying. And shortly after he passed, we realized it was past midnight, which technically made those pastries day old. And so we sat with him and we each enjoyed a pastry and we told funny stories.
Oh,
so, yeah.
That's beautiful. That's
I'm just
beautiful.
gonna grab a tissue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I wish we could do more of that. Look at other cultures and realize how they're dealing with stuff, and not just with grief, with birth as well.
Yeah.
I think other cultures deal with, again, I've had 3 great nieces and nephews just have their first babies, and over the last few weeks,
oh wow,
it's just been like crazy. It always shocks me of how little time the new mother and the new dad have to adjust to this completely altered life, or even just to physically heal from the what your body has to go through to have this little person in your life. And where I know I have friends that are from Czechoslovakia, and the mother was telling me that when she had 2 daughters and in Czechoslovakia, and not only did you stay in the hospital for like a week, and it felt almost like a vacation. They taught you how to take care of the baby, and there was like a training and for you and the new dad. And then when you went home, they actually sent a nurse home with you for a period of time to make sure that the mother was resting and healing, and that, they knew what to do, and that they were cared for. And I'm just like, holy cow, is that like the complete opposite here, and because
we're so productivity centric.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're not producing something, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Boy, is that true. Is that true? Wow.
Yeah, that's a big loss. That's another thing from Tibetan culture, because the way that they say goodbye, it depends on if you're the person who's leaving or the person who's staying. And so to the person who's leaving, you would say, go slow. And to the person who's staying, you would say, stay slow. And our Tibetan friends, it was always fascinating to me, because we have, with our productivity focus, we also have this, you have to look busy kind of a mindset, like the boss is coming, look busy. And that's so much of how we view existing in the world, and the idea that you could go at a slower pace and maybe a little bit more steady pace, and rather than, push, and now you can relax, or you can only have your vacation after you've worked really hard, and you can't do that until you retire. And it's less of a, let's get some work done, and then let's stop and have some tea, and then let's get some more work done, and then let's have a meal. And so trying to adopt more of that has definitely helped my mental health.
Wow. Yeah, I have a acupuncturist, this Pao Huang, who's in Boulder, Colorado, and I started seeing Pao the late 80s for my eyes, because I was, really at the end of my rope with what to do, and I was in so much pain and everything. And I remember walking in there the first time, and I went in because I was having severe migraines, and my massage therapist actually told me about him. And so, I didn't know anything about acupuncture, nothing. So I went in, and first the smells, because it was herbs. They prepare herbs and everything. Yeah. So that was like,
it's a very distinct aroma.
Yes. Where have I walked into? It was like walking literally over the threshold into this different world. And I was trying to explain to him about my migraines, and he keeps looking at me. He's like, what happened to your eyes? What's going on? And I said, oh no, I'm not here for my eyes. I'm here for these migraines. He goes, and he kept saying it over and over again. And in my head, I'm like, because Western medicine, this is what's
everything
wrong.
Is compartmentalized.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, no, really, tell me what's going on with your eyes. And so I did.
He can't look at anything if he doesn't know that.
Exactly. And we just started this beautiful friendship, and I cannot even go into how many times he really brought me back from death a couple of times, and where Western medicine sort of gave up on me. But when you go in there, it's not like, oh my gosh, you're going to have a heart attack, or what did you do? Or let's get an x-ray, or let's try this medicine. It's just like, oh, okay. And so yesterday I went in because I dislocated my shoulder over Labor Day weekend, and it Western medicine is like, oh, we have to do this and that, and you have to be on these muscle relaxants that make me feel like a zombie, like all this stuff. It was just like this bad like cloud over me, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to Penn. And again, I walk in there, and he said, how are your eyes? And I told him that they were actually pretty good. And I told him about the shoulder. He goes, no problem. And I lay down, and he does his magic. I say it's magic because that's what it seems like.
I'm comfortable with that framing.
Yeah. But it's just this totally different experience. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, if you don't do this, you're never going to have use of your arm again, or it's going to take a year to recover. And it did hurt, because he goes to the root of the issue, and I wasn't sure, and of course he gave me these herbs, and so my house now smells like his office. But
I like that smell.
but last night I did the herbs for the first time, and then I have not slept that good, and I felt like years, and I actually had the most incredible dreams. I feel like I haven't even dreamt in years since I've seen him. And then this morning when I woke up, it was like, because it did up until I went to pout, felt like a knife going through my shoulder. And that's like, it was hard not to focus on that. Right. And so this morning I wake up and I'm like, oh, I feel good. I feel rested.
Is this what it feels like when you're not being stabbed?
Exactly. And it's like, it's just so frustrating that Western medicine doesn't accept that and accept what's
I blame Descartes.
Really.
Rene Descartes.
Yeah. Tell me more.
Okay, so in Western philosophy, he's the one who came up with the whole mind-body-spirit separation. And also the scientific method, which I do value, having been a scientist and having been a pharmaceutical chemist. I have, a little bit of an insider view of how that plays out. And that's why we've got all those silos. That's why everything is compartmentalized. Because with the scientific method, you have to look at one variable at a time. You can't look at the whole picture. And so we've eliminated the possibility of having a holistic approach by using that pathway. And another thing that's really funny to me, when you hear people questioning things like acupuncture, herbs, and they'll demand to know, oh, well, how does it work? Why does it work? Having been a pharmaceutical chemist, most of the drugs that are prescribed, they don't know the pathway that it's working through. And often drugs are prescribed for something different from what it was originally intended to be developed for. But in their clinical trials, they found hey, we found out that this was happening. So maybe that's going to be what this drug is. Wow. And so people have this higher threshold for what they call alternative medicine, which is actually ancient medicine that's been around for a long time. And if it were bad news, word would have gotten out by now, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so, I definitely think within any traditional healing system, there are some things that can be problematic, like, endangered plants being over-harvested or something like that. Same thing with animals that are being utilized for the various properties. And so anytime I'm using Chinese medicine, I try to be very responsible about my herbs and the medicines I'm taking. But if you look at how Western medicine is, if you actually saw behind the curtain, it's not this profoundly wise thing that we like to see it as. But on the other side of that, you've got people who are very much against vaccines. And in a way, it's almost a modern form of homeopathy. because you're encouraging your body to learn to deal with the thing that's a threat.
Right.
And so even though I'm not fully on board with Western medicine or biomedicine, you can word it in different ways.
Yeah.
I'm not fully on board, but I'm also not against. Like, I'm fully vaccinated. And so there are things that Western medicine comes up with that are useful, but often they're only really good at the things that are either treating a symptom or trying to directly address something that could kill you, like a heart attack or you've got cancer. But even with that, I mean, they're getting better with more targeted treatments, but it's hard because there are all these things that are considered kind of subclinical, not strong enough for a Western doctor to even agree with you that you've got something wrong.
Yeah.
But you go to, other types of medical practices and they'll be able to identify that you've got an imbalance in this meridian, or, your energy is not moving and that's why you're having these anger problems or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I think a balance of the two of them is really a good way to go.
Yeah. I mean, he is. I call him magic.
He sounds like a gem because I'm in favor of acupuncture, but he sounds really good.
Oh, he is. He was trying to, and his daughter was there. Pao is,
nice.
He's 79. It took me a while to get that out of him. And his daughter, he has 3 daughters. His oldest daughter was there. And, I said, tell your mom I said hello. And she goes, oh, what's your name again? And I said, Penn. And she thinks, and she goes, you have a guide dog that's a poodle. And I was like, yes, I do. I cannot believe that you remembered that. And she said, yes, I was in the office once. And then she goes, my mom always talked about you and your poodles. And she just thought it was so wonderful and everything. Because Pal, at first I was nervous to take my guide dog in, because you just never know what kind of reception they're going to get. But Pal would get him up on the bed, the table with me, and let him, and he would soothe them and everything. And then, sometimes, because it can be painful when he's working on you. And Pal would whistle like just this beautiful song. I don't even know what it is. And because, my guide dog would get like, what are you doing to her kind of thing? But Pal would start whistling.
I'm concerned. You're touching my human.
Yeah. And my guide dog was just like, oh, okay. So whatever he was whistling was even magic. But yeah, it was just
awesome.
Yeah, it feels like.
Is his daughter becoming an acupuncturist? Or
She one of his daughters has her own clinic in Florida, and then I don't know what the other 2 are. But she said, I said, I need some more of your dad's business cards. And she goes, okay, but I'm only going to give you a couple because I really wish he would stop working so much. Because I guess her mom used to help she did the herbs, and she would evaluate your chart and everything. But she said, yeah, mom retired a long time ago, but dad refuses. And he goes, I only work 4 days a week now. She said, yeah, right. But you were talking about loving what you do and, and feeling like you changed the world. Well, it's hard to step away from that, right? When your work is impacting not just the present, but the future of those lives. Because he did say, he said, honey, you can't schedule somebody when they don't feel good. You can't say, oh, don't feel good today. You have to wait until Monday.
I'm taking a day off today.
Yeah.
You're going to have to feel lousy tomorrow.
And I just thought that was so neat that he still at 79 knows how important healing is. And he is. He's definitely a healer. Just like I think, the things that you have talked about that you have done, how important it is to make those connections and touch people's lives and everything. Well, Lauren, it is. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, since we're talking about medicine and healing, because you talked about how these sessions aren't comfortable, I just want to give a shout out to traditional Thai massage, because that's really similar. So anyone who hasn't tried that, somebody who's Thai or has studied in Thailand is definitely my recommendation. It's not, you don't end up massage drunk, but you end up walking out more comfortable in your own skin. And so,
yeah,
I'm kind of thinking of your shoulder as I'm saying this.
I actually,
but what were you going to say?
How's
it doing?
It's actually, I mean, I can lift it. I can't lift it all the way over my head yet, but it's definitely got more range in it.
That's big progress, though.
It's huge progress. And just to be able to sleep without, just the muscle relaxants really did impede me. I like the first 3 mornings I took them because I was not sleeping at all without them. But I did wake up in the morning. Not only did it really not help me sleep, or the sleep I was getting wasn't quality sleep, but when I'd wake up in the morning, I felt hungover, and I don't drink or take drugs or anything, so I'm not used to that feeling.
That's the worst.
And so I haven't been taking them. So it's nice to wake up feeling like I had a good night's sleep, and I think that itself is healing. You know, but
and when you're sleeping is when your body's able to do its repair work. So
And he mentioned that too. It's like, you haven't been sleeping. I was like, nope, I haven't. And so whatever, but what's nice is whatever is in the herbs is like, because I took them this morning as well. They're not making me sleepy. It's just at night. Right.
They're just balancing things out so you can sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And it was beautiful to dream again. I feel like I haven't had dreams and they were beautiful, colorful dreams. It wasn't, because people ask me a lot about dreams. And I've had other blind friends. We've talked about dreams. And, do people who are blind and visually impaired dream in pictures, or is it just sounds? And everybody, even people who were born completely blind, there's still texture and color. It's just different than maybe what somebody who, sees 20/20 does, but there is all the elements, texture and visions and color and everything. So it was great. I feel like I'm back on the mend. I want to get ready for ski season. So that's my, I did not tell Pal that. That's why I'm here, is because I want to get ready for ski season. I don't think he'd approve of that, but
who knows? He might have supported it.
Absolutely. Because I do know that he has worked on Olympians when they need to heal quicker and they come to him and make sure that happens. So, So with the holidays coming up, Lauren, do you have big plans, or are you just going to enjoy being in your new home and getting settled?
We don't have any plans. My husband is contemplating heading back home to see his family for the holidays because, the shock of him having left. And it's an easy flight back home. We have an enormous table that we bought for our house. And as soon as we've got our house under control, we might start having some of the festivities at our house. But right now we're just kind of winging it and trying to get settled in. Yeah,
that makes sense. So another question that I like to ask my guests is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I actually think about that probably more than I should.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have a clear answer, which is funny since I think about it a lot. Do you know the story of how the Nobel Prize came about?
No, I don't.
So there were 2 brothers with the last name Noble, and I'm sure I could tell this better than I'm going to, but I'm not going to tell it better. And there was some kind of confusion, and an obituary was written for one brother when it was the other brother that had died.
Right.
And so the living brother reads this obituary that was actually written about him and talking about how he invented TNT and all of the destruction and blah, blah, blah. So he reads this and he's horrified that this could be his legacy, that he created something that could be used for destruction. And that was not how he wanted his legacy to unfold. And so he got busy and created a different legacy. I do think one of the things I would like, because meditation has been really, really important for me, is I would like to publish some kind of a book that makes it easier for people to access it. So I guess that I would like
And
that.
when you get that written, we'll make sure that we get an audio format so that we can share it with everybody out there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan. Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
So
I like
what's
it.
next for Lauren Bear? Do you have any travel plans, or is there someplace you would like to go?
I don't. Well, I want to go everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm the least well traveled in my family, so it's kind of funny when people feel like I've traveled a lot because I've traveled less than everyone else in my immediate family.
Wow.
Yeah, right. We've only been to a few countries in Africa, and there's some that we visited that we'd like to return to, and then a bunch more we'd like to see. Haven't seen much of South America. I'd love to return to Thailand on vacation because with all my trips there, none of them have been vacation. And I hear that's fabulous.
Wow.
So I want to give that a go. Yeah. Oh,
That
pretty
sounds
much
good.
just anywhere I can go.
Yeah.
In terms of goals, really right now, it's creating a really good structure for our volunteers here at AINC because I want to make sure that we're setting them up for success and that we have a framework, with everything that's changed over the last several years, there's a lot of opportunities to kind of tighten things up. And so I'm trying to look at ways that we can improve our programs, create additional volunteer opportunities, create volunteer leadership opportunities. So that's really occupying a lot of my bandwidth right now.
And Lauren, how do people find out more about how to become a volunteer at AINC?
Go to our website. Right now, we have a volunteer application that only steers you towards the audio portion, the recording that we do through all of our different channels. And so that's a starting point, and you can put notes in there if that's not what you're interested in. Or if you have pursued that and your audition didn't make it through, but you still would like to work with us, then please reach out again because I would love to start connecting with volunteers that are looking for opportunities in addition to our recording and reading opportunities.
Thank you so much for mentioning that because that's definitely been a goal of mine, especially on the development side. We do fundraisers and I need help. I need volunteers to make those come to life. And so I'm really, really excited that we're talking about this and bringing that to fruition. Every year we have our annual fundraising hike, and we've had some incredible volunteers on that. And some of them are volunteer readers, but they want to also, help out with the hike. So definitely stay tuned. And so just, go to our website at www.aincolorado.org, and there's a volunteer button right up there at the top. And just click through. And like Lauren said, there is a space for you to put your notes if you're interested in doing something else besides reading. I do want to make sure that people know, yes, it's wonderful if you want to read a newspaper for us, week after week. But we also have things like, public service announcements, or now that we're doing topic of the month, sometimes they're just short articles that we need voices
various
on,
specials.
So and as you can all tell, Lauren is fantastic. She's a beautiful human being to work with. So,
and fully fluent Spanish speakers. We'd love to have some more volunteers to do reading along those lines too. So if that's you, contact me.
Absolutely. So Lauren, what would you like people to take away from our conversation today?
What would I like people to take away? That they really want to come and volunteer for us.
Yay. I like that answer.
That would be great.
I like that answer.
Yeah, right?
Okay, Lauren.
Yeah, we have such a wonderful family of volunteers, but we have room for more.
Absolutely. I come from a family of 12. There's 10 children and both my parents. So
my goodness gracious.
Yeah, make the families big. It's
so
beautiful.
Where are you in the birth order?
I'm 9th. I have 7 older brothers and 1 older sister and 1 little sister. So, yeah, I'm a tomboy. I had to be to survive. So come be part of the AINC family. I need to hear more about your background. So Lauren,
you're good at dealing with big families.
Exactly. I'm going to reverse the table a little bit. I always give my guests an opportunity to ask me a question.
So obviously with your visual impairment, I can see there being a draw to this, but what else was it about AINC that resonated for you?
That's a great question. I became a listener with AINC decades ago. I just happened to be at a resource fair, and Kim Ann was there, and who's now our executive director.
Nice.
And I met David, who was the executive director and our founder at that time. And David was very excited because I lived up in the mountains in Estes Park, and he was really trying to he wanted to know how far the reach was and to problem solve when people couldn't access it. And so I sort of became his guinea pig.
Oh.
But it drew me to it not only for the first time in my life, because I lost my vision at age 9, and most 0 to 9-year-olds aren't reading the newspaper. So reading newspapers was never even on my thoughts or anything. And so it was just this new world opened up to me where I had access to information. And a lot of it was, because I was living in a small town in the mountains in Estes Park, Colorado, and to get local news. Because, I would hear friends or family talk about something that happened, and I'd be like, how did they know about that? Well, it was in the newspaper. And so I've always been involved. And then the various nonprofits that I worked with, I would bring my consumers and do tours of AINC and, of course, sign them up to be listeners. So it really was just a really natural fit. And so when this position opened up, during the end of COVID, it was just a perfect time. And I was just so thrilled that I made it through the application and all the many interviews, and they wanted me to be part of their family. So, yeah, so that's what drew me to it, is just the work. And then, we bring print to life. I mean, who wouldn't want to be part of that? Be part of that. That's a great question.
I thought of another question since we talked about travel.
Go ahead.
I was wondering with your visual impairment, since we're talking about travel, what is the biggest barrier that people could maybe be aware of and possibly help to remove when it comes to travel and visual impairment? Yeah.
Well, so transportation is the biggest issue with people, especially who have vision issues, because public transportation is not widespread or easy, or it never quite goes where you want it to when you want to go there. And the alternatives are very expensive. And so, if we had the self-driving cars, everybody's like, oh, well, that's going to be the answer. And I don't think so. I don't know if I would trust that. If you have somebody in your life that's blind or visually impaired, say, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. Would you like to go with me? Or, I'm going to Denver to go to this show. Would you like to go with me? Because unfortunately, when you start losing your vision or you've lost your vision, sometimes your world can get very small. And so there's little things that you can do to make that bigger. And especially people like me who like to be, I like to ski, I like to hike. And I'm very fortunate that I have a wonderful people around me that are willing and like to drive me. At least I hope they like to drive me. But so I get to do those things, but I have the majority of my friends that are blind and visually impaired don't. They don't have a spouse or a family or friend that's like, hey, we're going skiing on Saturday. Would you like to go? Or, hey, let's go for a hike. Or if I want to do it, if I want, I heard about this new trail. It's right up the canyon. Who wants to go? I'm lucky. And I, that's a beautiful thing that I have that I know so many people don't. So that, or,
sounds like including people.
Exactly. And be willing to take that extra 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes, maybe an hour out of your day to give somebody a ride. That's huge.
That sounds great.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for being on
Thank
here
you, Penn.
today. I know you are crazy busy and you're doing great work, and it's so great that you're part of our family. I really, really appreciate it. And everybody out there, make sure you mark your calendars for next week's episode of Aftersight. It actually is our 1-year anniversary. I cannot believe it went by so fast. And we have a very super special guest, and we're going to try to keep him a secret, but you don't want to miss it. I'll give you a little bit of a hint. He was the first to put blindness at the top of the world. Think about it. But definitely drop back in next week. And Lauren, again, thank you so, so much for being on. And always, always thank everybody at Audio Information Network of Colorado for making this podcast possible, because I get to do the fun part. I get to talk to people like Lauren, but all of the rest of you are doing the heavy lifting, and you are making it possible for this to happen. And remember, everybody, be kind to yourself this week and find a way to be kind to somebody else. It's good for your soul.